Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me in another video. So LVMH just released their Q1 results, and I really enjoy doing these videos, especially because LVMH, in many ways, it is viewed as the luxury sector bellwether. How LVMH is doing, it's a larger indication of what is going on in the luxury market. LVMH does fashion, leather goods, jewelry, beauty, fragrances, wine and spirits. They do online, they do brick and mortar, direct to consumer, select retailing. It's all around the world, and LVMH has an assortment of brands, and it owns a big chunk of the luxury market. Whatever's going down at LVMH, it is in many ways a larger indication of what is happening. LVMH just released their first quarter results. At an organic level, it is down by 3%. Their first quarter sales were at 20.31 billion euros. This was actually below what analysts had expected. There was this expectation that there would be a 1 to 2% growth. Now, of course, we are going to talk about global events that are impacting this. Of course, the elephant in the room, it's tariffs. America and China right now are in an escalating trade war. I can't keep up. Last I saw this morning a headline that China could potentially be facing a 245% Trump tariff. And of course, there's this whole debate about portions of luxury goods being made in China, which we've already talked about, but the tariffs have also impacted European brands. While there has been a 90-day suspension on the rest of the world, the US is still implementing for now a 10% tariff on everybody else, but this might change by the time I upload this video. Regardless, what is happening right now, it is going to have a massive impact on the world of fashion. It's going to massively impact luxury brands, and it's going to massively impact LVMH. As we have recently discussed, many parts of these luxury bags in some capacity come from other parts of the world, be it the leather, the materials, the hardware. Not all of this is sourced from Italy or France. Throughout this video, I'm going to be talking about the impact of these tariffs on these specific brands at LVMH and what LVMH plans to do about it. So I'm going to be referencing the report, but I'm also going to be referencing the earnings call. So regionally, LVMH saw continued growth in Europe, up by 2%. US, there has been a slowdown. Japan is also down because if you remember last year, there was an increase in tourist spending in Japan due to the weakened currency, but rest of Asia is down. China is down. It was also mentioned during the earnings call. This region is very important in the first quarter because of it being Chinese New Year. Now, if we go based on category, almost all categories are down with the exception of watches and jewelry. The category of wine and spirits was down. Specifically mentions in Japan, there were price increases, but it also talks about some other things the LVMH is doing. Pharrell, notably, is collabing with Moet Chandon. There's been more collabs with Formula One. According to the earnings call, champagne held up well in the US and Europe, but cognac and spirits were down due to the decline in the demand in the United States and China. Of course, this segment has been hit hard by uncertainties around tariffs. Now, when it comes to fashion and leather goods, this is the sector I'm most interested in. This is what I talk about mostly on my channel, as well as it is what generates the most revenue for LVMH. Now, it was down by 5%, dropping to 10.4 billion euros. We'll get into brands specifically, but there is this talk about LVMH didn't meet expectations. Now, what's interesting is at the end of January of 2025, Bernard Arnault did mention how Louis Vuitton specifically, which is their biggest brand, was off to a good start, and it was up by 10%. Of course, that was before the tariffs happened, with the first quarter, with the Murakami launch happening in Q1. Just seeing on social media, be it TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, the amount of content around Murakami, the amount of unboxings, as well as there's been a lot of content around the disappointment in this rollout. Apparently, a lot of people were not able to get their orders fulfilled. The stock has been ultra limited, but it has been really one of the most sought after collections this quarter, probably the most sought after collection this quarter, if I'm being so real. But a lot of people were not able to pick up anything. And during the earnings call, what they also mentioned was how they priced this launch at a premium, and it sold out completely. But I thought another interesting point about this was they stated they didn't want this collaboration to be the major source of sales or the agenda for the first quarter. So it made me wonder, why wouldn't they? I don't know. To me, I would have thought this would have been their golden ticket. Of course, we aren't able to see the specific numbers, but the hype around this was huge. In the earnings call, though, they did state that the next phase would be significantly less. In addition to the Murakami launch, they also had two bags they highlighted: the LV biker bag and the all-in bags. Now, I have personally seen the biker bag heavily advertised on social media with influencers, with just ads. Just as I'm scrolling, just seeing ads quite heavily. It's very edgy, very cool, very like 2000s era Nicolas Ghesquier. Very different, I think, from what we've been seeing. And then the all-in bag, it's a different style. It's more of like a bucket bag. It does kind of have this classic bucket silhouette, but it also feels contemporary in that it can fold in on itself. I can see the popularity around that. Another popular style is the P9 Speedy. That has been very popular since its release. And the way it's positioned, the way that Louis Vuitton is marketing this bag, kind of similar in concept to the way like Hermes does like Birkins and Kellys. It's not easily accessible or available. You need to be put on a list, or you have to be ultra like VIP in order to be offered one of these bags. This is Pharrell Williams' special bag. Like, this is his iconic bag. The presentation also mentions Louis Vuitton's partnership with the Australian Grand Prix, as well as they have announced the beauty line with Pat McGrath as creative director. During the earnings call was also mentioned about how 1/3 of the product sold by Louis Vuitton in the US actually comes from US factories in Texas and California. And they were asked whether or not they would increase this, of course, due to the recent announcements with the tariffs, etc. They did cite that there is still capacity, but they're still determining at what pace and how much they want to increase that to. We'll talk about Tiffany in just a moment, but they also mentioned how at Tiffany, they want to keep it mostly made in the USA. Not all of their products are made in the USA, some are made in Europe, but it is something that they are contemplating on potentially growing. But another interesting topic that I've also been talking about on this channel, and a major theme I think we have been seeing, is the change of creative directors. Many brands are right now in this transitional stage. And I think for many customers, this is something that makes customers pause. See designers come and go so quickly. I think there's just overall a reluctance to want to pay thousands of dollars for a very nice bag. Who wants to do that when it could potentially be discontinued? But if we go down the list, there's a lot of changes. So at Dior, of course, Kim Jones just left. We've talked about that. Maria Grazia Chiuri, of course, nothing has been confirmed yet, but it is expected she's going to leave. During the earnings call, when asked about Jonathan Anderson, what Jonathan Anderson's up to, is he going to go to another house? Many people speculate Dior. Of course, it was not confirmed, but they did dance around the question, and they said that they're excited to see what's coming next. It leaves us to put two and two together. So I just have to update this video. So it has been confirmed as of April 17th that Jonathan Anderson is going to be the artistic director of Dior Menswear. But the report mentions her various shows during the season. We saw the Couture show, the Fall/Winter 2025 show, exhibit in Seoul. Two specific bags they highlight: the Dior Toujours as well as the Dior DiGiorni bags. I don't know. For me personally, they're not my style, but I'm really not a Dior gal. I would love to know, what do you guys think of these bags? They also cite the success of their high jewelry line. Now, of course, LVMH does not list revenue by brand, but they did state during the earnings call how Dior was performing quite slightly below average. When looking at Dior's product and pricing, I think it is quite high. They've had significant price increases. During the Q&A, when asked generally, will they pass along price increases to their consumers as a result of tariffs? One thing that they did state was during this 90-day suspension period, they want to use this period as a time where things can be negotiated. Bernard Arnault, for instance, and his family, they have been very public in their support for Trump. Of course, there is a business side of this. Just about a quarter of LVMH's revenue, it comes from the United States. So much of LVMH's business interests are dependent on what can be negotiated. And the US has been the region, prior to Trump's tariffs, it was the region that was experiencing growth in 2024. Whereas Asia and other parts of the world, there was more of a dip. The US has actually been on an upward trajectory. Now, will that change? It'll be interesting to see. Continuing on, Loro Piana was the third brand mentioned on this list. During the Q&A, Loro Piana was specifically cited as having a strong performance. They have gained, I think, a lot of recognition in the recent years around, people talking about things like quiet luxury, etc. As well as I think their leather goods have gained more popularity. Loro Piana also celebrated its 100th anniversary and exhibition in Shanghai. Next on the list is Celine. Right now, Celine is in this transitional stage. It just states new creative director Michael Ryder to unveil his first collection in July and new bag launch. So they don't specify the bag. Now, if I'm going to guess what bag they could be referencing, it could be the Lulu or the Celine 16 Camille. Those are the two, I think, most recent bag drops that they've been promoting at the moment. Or perhaps Michael Ryder is going to come out with a new bag. I don't know. But I'm personally excited to see what happens at Celine. Of course, it's a brand I've been following. I'm actually very curious to see what happens come July. Next on the list is Loewe, and they did mention the departure of Jonathan Anderson, the arrival of Proenza schooler designers Jack McCullough and Lazaro Hernandez. They also highlighted the Crafted World exhibit in Tokyo, as well as the new store in Shanghai and the launch of the Madrid bag. Now, Fendi is next on the list. They highlighted how their fashion show celebrated their 100-year anniversary. This past runway, I think the main bag that we saw was the relaunch of the Spy bag, the Mama Baguette, which is a new bag we're seeing this season from Fendi. And then next we have Givenchy. Sarah Burton had her first collection, debut collection for the brand. Rimowa performed well. They extended their recrafted service. Berluti celebrated their 130th anniversary. Also mentioned how there's new brand ambassadors. So there's that. Overall, this segment in general is down though. And this is important because this is where LVMH generates so much of their revenue. The two main factors here, a lot of these brands feel like they're kind of in limbo. They're just in this transitional creative director phase. Of course, Louis Vuitton is doing very well. I wonder if Louis Vuitton with the Murakami rollout, could that have been done differently? Because the demand was there, clearly, even with the premium prices. I also wonder if they have plans to draw this out, if that's the reason. But I also thought it was interesting during the Q&A, they were asked about price increases. Now, LVMH during the earnings call stated that they like to refrain to use price as a growth driver. I will say, if you've been looking at LVMH, a lot of their brands, especially during the pandemic era, we did see a lot of price increases. You can just look at any graph, specifically Louis Vuitton and Dior, but they did state that they would rather prefer to offer more premium or higher priced items as long as the value is perceived and the products sell. That's what they were stating during the Q&A. To back this up, they were referencing how they launched the biker bag from Louis Vuitton, the Mama Baguette, which is a new bag we're seeing this season from Fendi, the Dior Toujours. These bags are on the higher price point. They did also mention in the Q&A when asked about volume, they did state it was down. They did admit that they do price increases if there is inflation or currency changes. In the case of tariffs, they did also state it was something that they may consider. It is possible what we saw during the pandemic, more price increases, but I do fear that it's going to price even more people out. When it comes to perfumes and cosmetics, this area was down 1% last year. Q1, they were at 2.18 billion euros. This year, they're at 2.17. Fragrances performed well. They stated how at Dior, they saw ongoing success with the Jade Dior, the new Eau de Parfum, various scents at Dior, as well as various beauty lines. Guerlain, new fragrances, and new Rouge G lipsticks for Givenchy. They highlight L'Interdit as well as the Prism Libre makeup. Maison Francis Kurkdjian unveiled their new fragrance Kirky. They also cite Makeup Forever and Acqua di Parma also had a new launch. Also during the earnings call, they did mention how in response to the tariffs, how the aspirational customer is more vulnerable, and this segment is going to be hit hard. There has been an impact in the recent weeks since the escalating trade war. Now, when it came to watches and jewelry, this category is actually slightly up, just ever so slightly. Q1, they're at 2.48. So they specifically highlight the growth at Tiffany. They're unveiling their new store concepts inspired by the landmark in New York. There's the Tiffany T-Lock hardware and knot lines. So LVMH is continuing to expand. Tiffany Bulgari also had an exhibition in China and Seoul. It was also the year of the snake, and this is their motif. For Chaumet, they rejuvenated the Bille de Chaumet collection. For watches, they mentioned the LVMH Watch Week event showcasing Tag Heuer, Hublot, and Zenith. They also mentioned Tag Heuer's return as the official timekeeper for Formula One. Just another observation while we're talking about these tariffs. One thing when the initial tariffs were announced, so remember that big billboard Trump was holding up? Now the EU was at 20% tariffs, but what was interesting, Switzerland, the tariff that was proposed was 31%. There is a 90-day suspension on these tariffs. Now what has been proposed is the 10% tariffs for now. If this were to go through, a 31% tariff would severely impact watches. A lot of watches, they're made in Switzerland. A lot of these brands, Tag Heuer, Hublot, Zenith, most luxury watches, they're made in Switzerland. And if I think about LVMH's main competitor, now we're not talking about Richemont today, but if we think about Cartier, the Tank, Panther, Bang Noir, those ultra popular watches could go up substantially. Richemont also has other watch brands under their umbrella, so that is going to really impact the watch industry. Now, when it comes to selective retailing, this is hovering slightly above where it was last year, just like ever so slightly. This time it's 4.18. So Sephora had ongoing success, and they say part of the success is because Sephora does have a lot of exclusive brands. I think about brands like Fenty or Rare Beauty. Sephora also has their own Sephora line brand. A lot of these brands you can't really get at other department stores. They did also mention in the earnings call how at the US there has been less momentum due to e-commerce, and they specifically mentioned Amazon and how aggressive Amazon has been with their pricing. For DFS, duty-free shopping, it states here it was once again held back by prevailing international conditions. Le Bon Marché saw a good start to the year driven by the department store's differentiation strategy and its unique slate of events. LVMH strengthened the organization of its department stores with a shared governance structure for La Samaritaine and Le Bon Marché. That pretty much concludes the report here. Overall, LVMH, it is down. They did miss a lot of the analysts' expectations. And I think also, while we have been hearing that Trump's tariffs, it is really going to take a huge toll on fashion, on luxury fashion. Since the announcement of these tariffs being quite drastic, I think it's going to change how LVMH is going to do a lot of things. Of course, there is this escalating trade war with the United States and China. LVMH is going to have to make decisions about where they choose to manufacture their goods, where they source their goods. I think they're going to reevaluate where their products are made. What is their pricing strategy? It's something I have been following on this channel. That's my video for today. Thank you so much for joining me in another one, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.